Video. Today we are doing 2 NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Friday, September 6th. First Friday football, I think it might be the only Friday football game of the NFL season. Packers, Eagles, opening week. This game is actually being played in Brazil. Before we get started, you guys, link in the description below. Hop into the premium Discord, $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. That is where I post all of my plays, research, and analysis. Super positive community, you guys. Everyone in there just trying to help each other cash. All the members in there, you guys, just trying to help each other cash on these slips. But let's get into it, you guys. 2 player props here. Packers, Eagles, Friday night football here, live from Brazil, Friday, September 6th. 2-point spread here on this one, 48.5 over under. 2 player props here on PrizePicks. For this video, also stay to the end of the video. I'm going to be talking about Daily Grind Fantasy, you guys. It is a research betting platform that I do use every single day. DFS optimizer, all that good stuff. I will be talking about it at the end of the video and sharing some plays from it. So again, before I get into it, also there is a 25% off your first month link or promo code TUFF in the description below of this video. But nonetheless, you guys, 2 PrizePicks plays. That's why you clicked on the video. 2 PrizePicks player props. Friday, September 6th, Packers, Eagles. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So the first play that I am targeting here is going to be quarterback for the Packers, Jordan Love. I like his over 17.5 fantasy score here, right? So we look right off the bat, looking at these fantasy score lines for quarterback specifically. We see 1.5 pass TDs is a goblin on PrizePicks, right? Which is, if I see 1.5 pass TDs on PrizePicks as a goblin, it means it's usually heavily juiced over on sports books, which pivots me to take fantasy score. And right when I look at the schedule, I see Jordan Love opening the season against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it really puts him in a great spot. So we look at Jordan Love, really came on towards the end of last season, maybe like the last 7 to 8 weeks. Towards the end of last season, like, he was just absolutely on fire. We can see he was over this line last season, and including that wild card game against Dallas, and including the divisional game, but really since week 11, or you could even say week 10, over this line in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of 12, 9 of his last 12 games, 9 of his last 12 starts, Jordan Love over this line here. And we can see over on Outlier, again, there's also linked in the description to a 7-day free trial with Outlier. Jordan Love last season, 2023, over this line in 13 of 19 games, averaging 19.57 fantasy points over that span, right? So obviously a really strong hit rate at 68%, 13 of 19, and it presents a great opportunity, like I said, against the Philadelphia Eagles. Going back to last season, the Eagles allowed the second most fantasy points to the quarterback position, 24.5 fantasy points per game. They really just, I think, got beat more so because their offense was very good, right? Moving the ball down the field and scoring. Opponents' offenses had to keep up. But also they just allowed a ton of completions to the quarterback position as well, right? 3rd most completions to the quarterback position, all right? 3rd most pass yards. And something that is key here, the 2nd most total passing touchdowns, right? And Jordan Love, I would consider, has maybe the best wide receiver room in the league as far as just the depth. There's like literally 5 to 6 wide receivers in that wide receiver room who could be a wide receiver 1 on any given night. But going back to what I talked about, Jordan Love's pass touchdowns being I think it's a goblin, right? A goblin over on PrizePicks at 1.5 pass TDs. Looking at those odds for 1.5 pass TDs, right, for Jordan Love, it's -150 on Caesars, -145 on Bet365, -170 here on DraftKings. So DraftKings giving -170 for Jordan Love to throw 2 passing touchdowns in this one. If we go back to last season, right, in 2023, 13 of 19 games, he threw at least 2 passing touchdowns. And like I said, going back to fantasy score, he went over this line in 13 of 19 games. So if we're getting 1.5 passing touchdowns, -170 on DraftKings, I really liked his odds here for his fantasy score line, just given the weapons that he has and given that matchup, like I said, versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which, going back to last season, gave the 2nd most fantasy points in the league to the quarterback position. Now also, we take a look at quarterbacks fantasy score game log last season versus the Eagles, including the playoffs, when quarterbacks threw the ball at least 20 times, which is what I would consider essentially a starting quarterback. I mean, look at some of these last quarterbacks going back to last season, right? We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9 of 10 quarterbacks had at least 17.9 plus fantasy points against the Eagles when they threw at least 20 times. And Jordan Love, like I said, has all the weapons. Now he has Josh Jacobs as well. Some checkdowns should take some pressure off him. Not that he had bad running backs last season. I think Aaron Jones is a great running back, but Josh Jacobs, an elite runner between the tackles and things like that. So it's a great spot for Jordan Love. I really like his over 17.5 fantasy score. I'm surprised, honestly, that this line is on PrizePicks right now currently. So Jordan Love over 17.5 fantasy score is the first play. The second play that I'm looking at, obviously from the Eagles, we're looking at Saquon Barkley. I like his over 13.5 fantasy score. I think Saquon Barkley, of running backs that move teams, or just for Saquon Barkley specifically, the Eagles were the best opportunity for him. Like, the Eagles were the best team for Saquon Barkley's skill set to go in there right away and just absolutely dominate, right? So we take a look at Saquon Barkley going back to last season, right? Over in 9 of 14 games, 64% hit rate on the New York Giants, right? When teams were just honing in on him, zeroing in on him, they knew he was getting the ball on so many different plays. Daniel Jones, which I feel like I like Daniel Jones as a player. I don't think he's that bad as people kind of make him out to be, but he's not Jalen Hurts, and he doesn't have A.J. Brown on the outside. He doesn't have Devonta Smith on the outside. He doesn't have Dallas Goedert. So teams can't really, zone in on Saquon Barkley. They really can't. Like, pick your poison type of situation, I think, with this Eagles offense. And for a player that has this hit rate on this line of 9 of 14 games, going back to last season on a much, much weaker team offense, I really like this line a lot. But going back to the Green Bay Packers, right? And running backs PPR fantasy score game log versus the Packers last season when logging at least 10-plus rushing attempts. I mean, you can see the hit rate. 9 different running backs hit the over on this line, including Saquon Barkley, you guys. Saquon Barkley with the New York Giants faced the Packers right at home, and he had 20.1 PPR fantasy points, right? 86 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, also caught 4 targets, had 4 targets, 3 catches for 15 yards as well. So he absolutely dominated the Packers going back to last season on a much weaker offense, much weaker team. So, again, why can't he get his 13.6 fantasy points in this game, opening the season with Jalen Hurts? Like, that read option with Jalen Hurts is going to be just absolutely disgusting, similarly to what I talked about in the Thursday night video with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, right? And going back even to the Packers, going back to last season, they did allow, right, top, 6th most, 7th most receptions over the last 8 weeks to the running back position. Also yards per carry, pretty even, middle of the pack team, right? 3.91 yards per carry over the last 8 weeks. Rushing touchdowns, pretty, 10th most, 4 total rushing touchdowns to the running back position over the last 8 weeks. But again, middle of the road defense. But Packers secondary, right? Their pass defense is really, really good. Like, I think if we go quarterback completion, like the Packers are, hold on, this is the last 8 weeks. Let me go to the whole season. I apologize. Try to make these videos in one take for you guys. But going back to last season, the Packers secondary very good. Jair Alexander, I'm sorry. They have a strong secondary. So I think it should open up a ton of holes for Saquon Barkley. And if we take a look at Saquon Barkley, last season PPR fantasy score game log, when logging at least 3+ receptions, he was over this line in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of 10 games, right? 2 misses, 8.8 and 9.3 fantasy. But something that is super key here that I think is, a catalyst essentially to Saquon Barkley and his production here with the Eagles moving over from it's very strong to consider the Philadelphia Eagles still have a top 3 offensive line in the National Football League. Like, there's no reason the Eagles aren't going to continue to dominate. And like I said, going back to last season, if this page will load for me, I do apologize. Going back to last season, right, you can see your NFL offensive line rankings. Lions still number 1 spot from the Eagles. Because obviously Jason Kelce is now out. But if I can scroll down and show Football League, according to Pro Football Network, and the New York Giants have the 29th ranked offensive line in the National Football League by Pro Football Network. So he's literally going from the 2nd worst offensive line in football, who hit the over on this line in 9 of 14 games, to the 2nd best offensive line in football, who loves to run the ball and has an elite dual threat quarterback handing him the ball. Line doesn't make sense to me, really, in my opinion, guys. I don't know why we're still looking at raising canes here. One more thing I wanted to share, again, if I could pull this up, is DeAndre Swift, how effective he was able to be last season. And I do like DeAndre Swift as a player. I'm a Bears fan. Obviously, he's on the Bears now. His PPR fantasy score game log. I feel like we can all agree Saquon Barkley, a more dynamic player than DeAndre Swift. That's not a knock on DeAndre Swift, but you can see, right, what DeAndre Swift was able to do in this Eagles offense, right? And going back to it, you guys, 2 player props for this video. It's going to be Jordan Love over 17 fantasy score, Saquon Barkley over 13.5 fantasy score. 2 pair here, or a pair for PrizePicks Friday, September 6th, Eagles versus Packers. I also want to share with you guys, like I said, Daily Grind Fantasy research betting tool that I do use every single day. So basically what Daily Grind does is takes the odds from all the major sports books and gives you essentially a percentage odds to hit. This is over on PrizePicks. Like, for example, like if we go to NFL Sunday and we look at some potential plays that we would take and add them to our slip here for the Sunday slate this weekend, or even for this game, Eagles Packers, right? Like right now, Bryce Young, currently the best play on the board is Bryce Young over 13 fantasy score, 53.99 odds to hit. So basically what Daily Grind does is, because Pinnacle, FanDuel, DraftKings, they don't have fantasy score lines, like they don't put out fantasy scores for people to bet on. They take past TDs, passing yards, rush yards, interceptions odds, and they combine them into essentially a fantasy score line that would be based on those books. And you can see here Bryce Young is undervalued on PrizePicks, giving this a 53.9% odds to hit, right? Similarly, you go down the list, and this updates every second, right? Books, lines on books move rapidly, quickly every second. So again, link in the description below. You can get 25% off your first month using Daily Grind Fantasy. But nonetheless, you guys, let me know in the comments below how you feel about these 2 player props here. Jordan Love over 17.5 fantasy, Saquon Barkley over 13.5. Please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.